Hey everybody, Dave Whitmarsh from Best Practice in HR. Here for another CEO interview with Sahil from AllyO. Looking forward to this. I've worked with a number of his employees before, but never actually spoken with Sahil. So welcome, Sahil.
Thank you so much for having me, David.
Yeah. So I always like to ask people right off the bat how they found themselves in this HR vendor space. And so what's your background? What's your history?
Yeah, actually nothing linear as you would have found. Most people don't have a linear path to fall into it. I've never been in the recruiting space except for, the one job I had in my life was in McKinsey, and McKinsey is very pro recruiting, and so assisted a bit there. What got me into it is when I quit my job and was looking for ideas, I wanted to do something which was B2B2C, which is you make your money from enterprises. So there's a secured business model, but it in the end impacts consumers, and there's a social impact there. And recruiting is actually top of the chart there. So is like food tech and some other ones, but recruiting is top of the chart. And I could relate very closely to recruiting. I'll tell you, even then, the McKinsey hat on, you look at it from your slides and analytics, and you cut the market in different ways. I got to say, even 3-4 years down now, still feel I'm pretty illiterate when it comes to HR and recruiting. But that's what made me fall into it. And it just felt like an area that has not innovated as much as it should, especially for the social impact it has.
Yeah. Well, it's always nice to have some fresh blood, because I think the fresh blood gives new ideas. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the people in the HR vendor space are like baseball managers. They just end up some other place bringing the same ideas, and that. So we're looking forward to your contribution to the human capital space over time. So tell us a bit about your company. What is it that you guys do, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, so the company name is AllyO. We are now, I think, in our 4th year. We are based in Sunnyvale, California. What we've done is we've built an artificially intelligent recruiting assistant by the name of AllyO that engages with applicants right from they might come onto the website or come to your career fair, all the way through getting them to apply, screening, interviews, looping in the recruiting team members, extending offers and negotiating, onboarding, and then checking in with them after they're hired to see if they're happy or anything needs to change. And as a company, we've been very, very successful in having the chance to work with some of the largest and best enterprises out there. Just amazing companies, you name it, have seen value of it. If I told you what's the benefit the customer gets, the key benefit is on 2 sides, is that recruiting teams today are heavily overburdened. A CEO in a company does not invest enough in HR. They just never do. As a result, human resources is overburdened. So giving something that takes on the admin task and returns 1 or 2 days per week to each recruiter or recruiting assistant is phenomenally valuable, both for their own life and for the impact of the company.
Right.
And then on the other hand, the candidate is just at an 85% probability never hears back from companies. And this gives them a chance to have live interactions with somebody and go through the process as efficiently as it could. The future of it, David, today we sit in the spectrum where you've got human intelligence and you've got no intelligence in software, which has always done automation. Artificial intelligence is somewhere here. Closer to human, not even close enough, but definitely much smarter than regular software. The goal is, with technology and training and contextualization, you can have these artificially intelligent systems take on more and more responsibility so that at least they can get to the 50% mark. Because to be honest, 60-70% of HR is admin work. It's repetitive administrative work. So if you can make that efficiency come through, HR plays a much more strategic and value-adding role, and that's the end goal that we want to go towards.
And how obvious is it for these recruiters to, I guess, build the structure to get to that 50%? Is it relatively easy for them to capitalize on the AI, or is it a bit of work for them?
Especially in our case, it's more work than the usual, right? So the HR vendor space traditionally is heavily commoditized. It's very overcrowded. You've got like 150 ATSs. You've got 7,000 job boards. And so typically most of the procurement and deployments tend to be very cookie cutter. But for what we are doing, it's a new category. And so there's a lot of education and high touch in the beginning. And as a company, we tend to be very focused on identifying and solving for the highest value aspect from a workflow standpoint for HR. And it takes strategic problem solving with HR to identify that in the process. If they knew, part of the puzzle is always not knowing where to start. And it's always okay to be patient to identify, hey, here's where you spend your time. Here's what's administrative and repetitive. Here's how it breaks down. This is the biggest chunk. And this is where we're going to have AllyO come and automate first. And as that happens and we see that, then we will expand over time and make it broader across functions.
Right. Okay. So I know that you've hired David Bernstein, right? Which is for those folks that may not know him, he's just really connected in the staffing space. He knows just about everybody, and has worked with them, through his past career. So and so that makes me question, or I'm going to ask you. So from a customer acquisition standpoint, I would think I'll let you say this, but are you technology? You're technology, but you still run within existing technology that folks have. So if they have Taleo applicant tracking or SAP, or Oracle or whatever, that you still fit in with that. You're not tied down to any particular format or technology.
Yeah, we're a startup, limited resources. We don't want to do anything that exists out there, right? Focus on what's different. And it's easier to focus on that and work with existing systems. The way we think about it is AllyO is like a recruiting assistant that comes in and is going to work with the other tools that exist. Whatever be the other tools, job boards, RPO companies and partners, ATSs, HRIS, whatever systems, AllyO will work with that. And it's not easy because sometimes integrations can get complicated. But that's true for any new employee that you hire. They need to get trained on those systems, and they're not the best from a UX and usability standpoint. And so that's been the focus. I will say that is how we go to market. A customer, on the other hand, has a pool of money, right? They've got $10 million that they have to spend on HR vendors. And if you think from a dollar angle, a $1 bill is a $1 bill. They choose to either put it in the ATS, in AllyO, or in both. And so sometimes when they choose AllyO, they're thinking of it differently, where they're saying, hey, can I cut back on my existing systems? And so while we may be coming on top, they might look at us as coming somewhere here, right, and cutting back. And so that does happen. And to be honest, we don't approach it that way, but it's an interesting learning. It's a completely interesting learning to take it that way. And it makes sense from a buyer standpoint.
So what really you offer is something that's scalable, really will impact some cost associated with your recruiters, giving them more time to actually recruit, which ultimately could affect headcount, right? And still provide the functionality that that candidates would expect.
Yeah, I'll put the same points in a different way. I think there are two areas where we impact a lot. We impact recruiting assistants, but if a company has recruiters, if you can afford to have humans behind your job recs, nothing beats the human experience.
Right.
So the companies that really work with us are those who don't have humans behind it, like a restaurant. You've asked every store manager of Starbucks to recruit, and their goal is to bring in $2 million. They just don't recruit. They just make their existing workers work harder, right? Overtime shifts and all that. They don't recruit. So in a system like that, AllyO would come in and take away that 1 day per week that the store manager would have to spend on recruiting and chasing candidates. Instead, AllyO would send them qualified, interested candidates every day at 2 p.m. when it's less of a rush hour. So that's one, which is giving back recruiting assistants time that would have been spent otherwise. And second is, today, think of a company, think of the largest company in the world like Walmart. Pretty much everyone in that segment applies to Walmart. So now Walmart, that has to hire, say, somewhere around 1 million people in the year, employs 2 million, of 2% of the US population works at Walmart. 1 million people are hired every year, but 10 million apply. There are 9 million people who never get touched. And now you have this automated system, like you said, at scale, that's able to go to those 9 million and convert them at the time being. And that allows for a lot of efficiency in not having to source and advertise on your Indeed, advertise on radio, advertise elsewhere. And so you're saving a lot of money from a sourcing standpoint. Even though AllyO is not sourcing, it's just picking up and entertaining everybody at scale who was interested in your brand because you had the brand equity. So recruiting assistance and then sourcing spend just because of the efficiency of responsiveness.
Right. And so that's, you can totally see how when you push the recruitment to the line manager, how that would just really relieve them, right? Just what a bonus it would be for that. And, the recruiters have come to expect certain things in their day to day, but what a complete value when it's pushed off. So hats off for that. And so what might an ideal customer look like for you? A certain amount of recs a year, certain amount of hires. What sort of, when does it start to make sense for an HR professional to buy something like AllyO?
Totally. In order for automation to pay off, you need to have a certain amount of volume, right? If you're doing the task just once in your life, why would you automate it, right? So you need a certain amount of volume. As a result, a typical customer for us tends to be a larger enterprise, so more than 1,000 employees, that is looking at hiring. Either it's a brand like a Google who gets so many 25,000 applicants for every job rec that they can never entertain, or it is somebody who just naturally hires at a large volume, a restaurant chain, a hotel chain, logistics. 85% of the US population falls under high volume recruiting, that segment. So I'll give you an example. We spoke about restaurants. Chili's, the iconic restaurant chain, has a sister brand under the same holding company called Maggiano's Little Italy. Maggiano's is the Italian version of it. And they have locations in pretty much every state in the country. And AllyO is the only recruiting assistant that reports up to the director of HR in that company and works with each of the restaurant managers on a weekly basis, trying to understand which recs are open, which recs should I close, what kind of candidates make sense, filtering everyone who comes onto the website or walks into the restaurant and texts the number that's identified with AllyO and routes them to the appropriate positions, and then the restaurant need be. And so those kind of customers tend to see most value. I'll give you in the case of Maggiano's, 2 months, they had 998 requisitions, David, 998 open job requisitions.
Wow.
After 2 months of using AllyO, they cut that down by 65%. So they were left with just 300 odd requisitions.
Wow. So that, when you're talking about that many that many, just statistically, you have to factor in the fact that, some of the managers haven't done anything, right? So if the employees in that organization or the managers actually would have taken action, the statistic would be way better in your favor, right? So that's impressive.
Totally.
Yeah. And so high volume, obviously when there's or industries that have higher turnover, it leads to high volume. So it makes sense. And so your go-to-market strategy then is twofold, right? So you obviously you're working on customer acquisition directly, right? And then maybe you can talk a bit about some of the partner marketing programs and how you see value in partnering with some organizations as a fit.
Yeah, totally. So we actually have a very interesting go-to-market. Again, we are illiterate here, right? We just keep the only thing we do well is we experiment and we iterate very quickly from what we learn. That's it. We don't know what we are doing otherwise, to be honest. We just show up to work and we experiment and we iterate from it. Our traditional go-to-market is, like you said, it's direct. Direct breaks down into inbound and outbound. So inbound is we advertise on LinkedIn or email marketing. They come onto our website. They sign up for a demo. The product's very experiential because all you have to do is chat with AllyO, and then you know whether this fits or not, and then you figure out how to work together. Outbound is we've got key accounts that our experienced sales leaders go and identify as, hey, is this something that could be valuable for you? And then the indirect channel also includes partnerships. And so for us, partnerships break down into 4 or 5 categories. And David Bernstein, who you mentioned, heads out partnerships for us. And his network, his fluency, his vision around that really pays off for us. So 4 or 5 categories that David focuses on are ATSs, like you said, ATS, AllyO on top of it, before the ATS, after the ATS, job boards. I've got a customer where on LinkedIn, the moment somebody says, click apply, that notification comes to AllyO, and AllyO instantly reaches out saying, David, thanks for applying for XYZ role. Let's have a chat. The moment somebody does one click apply. So job boards, we work a lot with RPOs. RPOs are recruitment process outsourcing companies where you outsource your entire recruiting department because for them, they have a huge team of recruiting assistants. And this is amazing cost efficiency for them. RPOs, staffing companies, right, for the same reason. And then recruiting marketing agencies whose whole goal is to optimize the top of the funnel. So they take everybody from a job ad to come onto the career stage, and AllyO takes them from career stage all the way to getting hired. And so that's synergy. So it's those 5 categories of partners that we work with. Today, this year has been a big focus to diversify our revenue. And so till date, in 2018, we've been successful in having less than 50% of our new revenue come from new logos, direct sales. Less than 50%. I think somewhere around like 40% comes from it. We've got around 30 to 35% coming from account expansion, existing customers, nice. And then some 25% come from partners. And so that mix also adds a lot of like comfort with how we're growing.
Yeah. Well, I can speak on a couple of those 5 industries. So if you're embedded with the RPO space, that's pretty lean business those guys do, right? When they do major RFPs, it gets pretty cutthroat. So in order to use a product like yours, it just goes to show that there's some efficiency in the savings. So that's good. And then I will say, when it comes to the branding, those folks, well, they may not be quite as, they might work with companies that have a bigger budget, but they're very much managing the brand and the perception and the workflow. So it means that the cost and efficiency on one side is wonderful for you. Congratulations. And then also to be recognized as as a best practice that should be used is also says a lot. So you guys are obviously doing something good. And so I don't know if there's anything else that you want to say before we wrap up.
I think I was just going to speak to your point. Look, end of the day, I'll say what I said earlier. HR tech is amazing at commoditizing itself very quickly, right? You'll see, and we are lucky we have investors like Google, Randstad, Bain Capital Ventures back us. But the impact that we have at customers shows that this is going to come rapidly. I think what one needs to believe is, what is this going to be like in 2020 or 2025? Because it's going to come. I mean, you can't imagine a world without online job boards, right? Nobody's filling up paper applications. So it's going to be what it's going to be like. And honestly, people think that's an exercise on paper to put down an idea and create a vision. In reality, it's collaborating on execution, whether it's David with all the partners or us with all the influencers like yourself, and to execute on it and try and see, hey, what makes sense, and what makes sense, prioritize that. And so anyone in your audience or folks out there who think that there would be an opportunity to try out a collaboration and push towards a vision that could be progressive for the industry, would love to connect. My email is Sahil, Sahil @AllyO.com, and would love to chat and see if we can work together.
Perfect. So if anybody's interested, doesn't matter what ATS or job board you're using, if anybody's interested in a demo, strongly encourage that. It sounds like it could be a good fit for almost anybody. And what's the website there, Sahil?
AllyO.com. So ALLYO.com.
Wonderful. Okay, guys, take them up on that offer to get in touch and have a conversation. And thanks for your time today. It's been great.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Bye now.